Welcome to my paranormal mini series where I share with you guys some of the things I've experienced. And I'm going to start off with one of my favorites. I'm going to end this series with a video sharing with you an experience I had that I've never shared before because it's too weird. It's hard for my brain to comprehend, but I'm going to share with you an experience I had where I met an individual that wasn't from this dimension that came here just to meet me. My first story in this paranormal series that I have for you guys would be one of my favorites that has to do with an individual that visited me from the astral realm after she passed away, sending me black magic. In 2022, my guides and angels informed me that an individual I had been working with for multiple years was sending me black magic that was returned and had one of her loved ones jump off a building. And this was an individual that flew to other countries to work with dark practitioners, where she lied to them saying that I would be an easy target despite the warning signs she got before, sending me to Despa that had her own child jump off a building. However, she lied to these individuals, and one of these people tried to get me into a car accident and was very close to being successful. One day I was driving to work, had been working at the same place for over a decade. It was a simple routine, less than 15 minutes away from my house. And only 5 minutes away, I was driving down a two-way street when the next thing I knew, this semi just cut out across two lanes and came to a dead stop. And at the time, I was driving a small Honda Civic. And I had two options. I was doing about 65 kilometers an hour, and this semi was about 60 feet away from me. And so I thought, well, I have two choices. Either I just slam into it and I die, or I turn into oncoming traffic, two lanes coming my way, and see what happens. And so I decided to turn into oncoming traffic. And the next thing I knew, there was a fully loaded black SUV, Suburban or Yukon, barreling down right at me, and it was probably doing about 70 kilometers an hour. And right before I found myself in a head-on collision, I heard one of my angels say, "Now." And what they were referring to was for me to crank the steering wheel. And I cranked the steering wheel and ended up missing this fully loaded SUV by about an inch, to the point where they veered off into the right lane, and all I heard was all these horns and all this shit going on as I went off, and I just kind of came to a stop. There was no traffic coming through, and I just sat there and I was like, wow, like that was so close, right? And what I found out was that this was from the individual that was trying to get me into a car accident. It was black magic being sent my way. And shortly after this experience, I was in Vancouver, about an hour away from where I live, and I was riding my e-bike around the seawall. And just as I was coming back to my car, I was parked to the side. There was no one behind me. I had my bike rack. I folded it down. I was putting my bike on it. And the next thing I knew, this Mercedes pulled up behind me with the hazard lights on. And this woman was like, her hand was out the window and she was yelling at me like, hey, 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 like all frantic, right? And I was like, what the fuck's going on here? So I kind of, fastened my bike, and then I walked over there and I was like, hey, what's going on? And I approached to the driver's side, and I seen this older Filipino woman that was just irate, and she was waving her hand, like, help me, help me, help me. So I went up to the window and I was like, you're like, what's up? Like, thinking in my head, like, calm the fuck down. Like, what's going on? And she's like, I need to get to this address. And she said some name that I never heard. It was like something Grove. And I was like, well, what? You don't have a phone? You don't have GPS? And she's like, no, no, no. I'm not from around here. Help me, help me, help me. And so I pull out my phone and I was like, okay, what's this address again? Like, where you want to go? And she told me something Grove. And I punched it in and it was like nothing was coming up. And she's like, I need to get to North Van. And I was like, okay, well, look, this address isn't coming up, but if you go straight down here, turn right again, that'll take you to North Van. And the whole time I was looking at this woman, there was something that was just so off. She was just staring at me with the most fear, like just terror in her eyes. I was just like, what the fuck is going on? And there was one moment where she reached out of the car and put her hand on my hand. It was like ice touching my skin, and I was just like, okay, this is not normal. And I remember when I was showing her how to get to North Van, like on my Google Maps on my phone, I was like, hey, look, you go this way, you go this way, you go this way. And I look over and she's just staring at me with fear in her eyes. And I knew something wasn't right. Like I went and I sat in my car and I was just like, that was not normal. Like that was a crossed over soul. Actually sat in my car for like 10 to 15 minutes before I drove off because I was so weirded out by that experience. And eventually I had an Akashic Records reading, that's my profile, where I share that experience with the Akashic Records reader. And she was like, yeah, that was the individual that was sending you black magic to get you in a car accident. And this was spirit showing you that this individual had received the karma that she was hoping for me, and that she was basically terrified of the consequences of her actions. As weird as it is, it's one of my favorite paranormal stories, and so I thought I'd open with this. Stay tuned. This is a mini series, many more to come.